Well, here we are again on another glorious Friday night. A bunch of old guys just chilling out in the rain. Well, if you're in Missouri, you're in the rain. My team is all in at the state finals doing their thing. And my buddy hit a 158.17 today on 218s and an S10. Things are going. Things are going. They're going. Um, so yeah, check this out. I love my life. My life's good sometimes. It's just gonna spin. Not too shabby, huh? Yeah, I thought so. I've been busy. Working hard on it. So we got 500 farad of Maxwell uh, caps, 16,000 watts of power on the subs, 2,000 on, about 2,500 on mids and highs. Got two trunk donor lithium, 90-ish amp hour batteries back here, and a 370 amp alternator. We're doing things. All of that, doing this. Yeah, baby.
Hit the chill back and you stand up, stand up. Start to move your body with your hands up, hands up. Rock it to and fro while they coming through the door. Now they leaning on the bar with the cans up, cans up. Hit the flow fast and you back up, back up. DJ got it lit, turn the track up, track up. Moving side to side, feel the rhythm start to ride. Now they stepping to the beat, never slack. Just how low can you go? Can you go? Can you drop it right down to the floor, to the floor? With a body like a demon, make the men start screaming. Then you turn to the crowd, let them know. Ooh, how far down can you go? Can you go? Can you lay it right down on the floor, on the floor? With the body like a demon and the men still screaming. Then you turn to the crowd, let them know, let them know, let them know, let them know, let them know. Lights turn low when they line up, line up. Shorty got the vibe, time to wind up, wind up. Everybody moving when the bass line hit, and the whole damn place gonna bind up, bind up. Bass hit hard and they jump up, jump up. Hands in the air, let it pump up, pump up. Moving left and right when the hook come tight. Everybody in the house shit. Just how low can you go? Can you go? Can you drop it right down to the floor, to the floor? With a body like a demon, make the men start screaming. Then you turn to the crowd, let them know. Ooh, how far down can you go? Can you go? Can you lay it right down on the floor, on the floor? With the body like a demon and the men still screaming. Then you turn to the crowd, let them know, let them know, let them know.
Yeah, baby. Yeah. What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Make sure I got sound because you know how that train wreck happens. Pardon me, guys. Let's see. We're exploding all over the place. Um, so we got Bobby B, Corn Nut, Dubby, and I don't see El Fuego. I'm sure Bobby done already messaged El Fuego because he gets to sleeping, fire and how it likes to, hit the bed. um, let's see here. Play It Live It said, "What's up? What's up? Digging the new track, man. Thank you. I got several of them up. I pulled one off because when I got in the Tahoe and listened to it, it didn't sound quite right. So I pulled it down and I've been working on it, getting a better version of it up. Frank M is in the house. Let's see here. How's everybody? How's everybody? T. Corley said I may not be able to hear anything. We're sitting there watching the game. All right, good times. And Red Pill's trying to get Bobby to give him something. I don't know what the heck that is. I saw Frank post a question about DSP. I've got 5 videos on the channel about DSPs. Um, one of them, well, several of them actually. I've got a couple of different ones showing how to use a DSP, basic functionality and intermediate functionality. Let's look through here to see. I think I have another one in here somewhere. Let me see here. Oh yeah, I've got many. All right, so I knew I had some. I've got one using the ADD SP68 from Audio Dynamics. I've got 5 on the B2 DSP. I've got one on installing a DSP, one on the Timpano 4-channel DSP. I got one on answering questions about DSP and tuning, inverting subs. I've got one on the 4.6 AT auto tuning DSP from. Actually, I've got multiple on that one also. I've got another 12-channel DSP that I found a while back. How to use DSP software for dummies like me. I got that video, which is pretty self-explanatory. And there's a whole bunch more. But the one you're probably wanting is how to use a DSP for dummies like me. Let's see here. Let me get that one up here. Copy the link. I'll put it in the chat for you. Unless everyone wants me to go over this, you can watch it after the show or at your leisure. Let's see here. I have a bunch. Rawcat's got some really good ones too. I highly suggest, though, that you watch mine first because I kind of start at the ground and come up. And then Rawcat kind of starts out up here. So if you don't have the foundations, sometimes you might get a little lost, and it might be good that my little videos, like 30 minutes long, I go through a lot of the basics, and Rawcat can take you through the more advanced stuff. But it's something you want to build block by block. You don't want to try to eat the whole thing at one time, or you're just going to not get any of it. You know what I'm saying? It can be if you look at it as a whole thing, it's a very, very complex thing with lots and lots and lots of stuff. But if you look at it in chunks, you can learn the chunks. And once you start learning the chunks, you'll start to learn how they interplay with each other. And I think you'll build up a general understanding of it. And then you'll be able to look at any DSP software and get it pretty quick, because there's stuff, once you figure out where the things are that you know should be there, are at, and how do you get to them, then you're golden, because they're all similar in a lot of ways. They all have like 95% of the same stuff. It may be in different places, and it may be a little bit bigger or better or less, and not as good, but it's all there. Ooh, wait. Okay, I'm trying to get my head out of my butt. I've had one of those days where I got out and did a little bit today, but actually got quite a bit done. I got a lot of finishing stuff done because there's been a lot of stuff that I was right on the edge of having done, and I was able to complete those projects. But it wasn't a lot of effort to do it. It was just the last step. You know what I mean? The last step, the easy stuff was what was left. Hostile Hair is in the house. He's like, "What's up? What's up? What's up?" Red Pill said, "Go watch Wildcat." Yep, absolutely. Um, yeah, he's a YouTube channel. Frank said YouTube channel. Wildcat is a YouTube channel. Or yeah. Rob Payne, what's up, man? Glad to have you. Let's see here. So, oh man, we're going to talk about a couple of cool things today. So, guys, no matter whether you're in SPL or SQ, or whether you're doing just about anything to do with heavy electronics, you're going to need wire lugs. And I want to show you some that I've gotten that are this little box right here. Now, these boxes are $7 a piece on Amazon. Um, and Now, if you go to the local hardware store or something like that, like, I don't know, AutoZone or wherever, you can pick up lugs, alt gauge lugs, for about $1.70 a piece. My buddy owns a car audio shop, and he's got a distributor that he goes to get his, and he pays $1.70 a piece. This little box, see, I got part of it sticking out here. This little box comes with 10 alt gauge lugs. Just like any other alt gauge lugs, they're nice, beautiful alt gauge copper lugs. And it comes with 5 red and 5 black heavy duty, I can't emphasize enough, heavy duty um, insulator. Heat shrink wrap, heat shrink. Stuff is thick and tough, and it's got that wonderful shine. You can't see it, but it's got that wonderful marine graded that glue inside, that shine. For $7 for 10, that's 70 cents a piece. The numbers are just. It's like I told him. I said, "Look, man, I get it that you're getting through your supplier and all this, and you kind of have some weird deal that he sold you, But I mean, you're getting screwed, and you're not getting screwed by a little bit. You're getting screwed a lot. Uh, they're literally identical. So I don't know why. And I've told him this before, but that's a great price. That's like $6.99 a box for 10, with 10 heat shrinks. I bought 4 boxes because I hate running out of those. I thought I'd poke that at you. Joseph said, "I'm late, but make it. In the middle of making new door panels." Ooh, that sounds fun. I really enjoyed that. I'm going to be doing some more to my door panels, maybe over the winter. They're a real pain in the ass because when I take them off, it's destructive. All my clips get broke, and it's a big pain in the butt. I don't like taking them off, um, but I want to. I didn't last year. I didn't do it. I didn't finish the back of the speakers. I was just letting it, use the cavity of the door. That was a huge mistake. I should have went ahead and enclosed those pods to where they were completely sealed. The catch is though is my speaker, which looks like a damn subwoofer. It's got like a 6 or 8-inch magnet on the back of that 10-inch mid. It's got an 8-inch magnet on it. Anyway, it's freaking insane. But that thing, I had to put a ring on my outside of my pot to pull them out a little bit because they were impacting the door before the face met. So the hole wasn't quite deep enough. Now I got maybe a quarter of an inch behind that magnet, between the magnet and the outside door steel of the door. Which means I have got to, if I put a shell in there, it's got to go right up against the door. Yeah, I'm not sure where it's hitting actually because it ain't hitting the outside metal because the window wouldn't roll down. It's hitting something in the door. I'll have to look at it, figure it out. But anyway, I got to build a shell in there to envelop that thing because I'm getting so much sound linkage around it that it won't get down to the mid bass that I want it to do. I know it can do. It's the door that's the leaky, horrible baffle that it's mounted in, and I need to go ahead and just fiberglass around the backside of that thing so it can be a solid thing. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to go. I may put the stuff together, get it across there, and then put the door panel on the door and press it up against it to help shape the fiberglass around whatever the hell it's impacting. And then just let it sit right there pressed against that panel to dry. That way, the shape of whatever's back there is pushed into the fiberglass and it'll, you know, for that first initial, thing. And then I can go inside and lay in. I can do that with the fleece and I can go inside and lay in the fiberglass. I'll work out something. I try to sort problems out in my head, and my head's pretty good about doing that. But right now I have a blank spot because I'm not really sure what that magnet's hitting. It's hitting something though. Uh, so yeah, looking for some connectors. Um, Connectors. Are you trying to do like a speed connector? One of my favorites is Dean's plugs. Um, they're usually a red and a black. I like them because they're tough, but you got to be able to solder to connect them. So you solder your wires to them and then snap it in the thing, snap them together, and you get a flip flop. So you have a red and a black and a red and a black, and they'll only go in the right way. Um, and use that old school label maker to do labels on it, and slide some clear heat shrink over the wire, and then you'll have marked, targeted, you know, individually assigned wires with nice Dean's plugs on each one. I think you'll like those Dean's plugs. There's plenty of options out there, but bashing RC cars and smashing them into stuff and flipping them into the air and landing them from 40 feet in the air and all the crazy crap that we did to them, those Dean's plugs always held up. They never failed, not once. And whenever I'm doing a base vehicle, that's kind of the shit I'm thinking about. It's like my buddy was putting in some stuff, and I said, well, get a hammer and just start hitting it. After you hit it about 5 or 6 times, if it's still there, then it's probably okay for a base vehicle. If you break it with a hammer in the first 5 seconds, it wasn't going to last anyway. Um, yeah, to connect speakers in the doors. Yeah. If you're wanting to do permanent connections, then I myself, I like to either twist and solder or twist and like like split the wire up and push it together like this, and then twist it back on itself, and then run a little solder on it. Um, that's what, or in the heat shrink. That's what I like to do. If I can't do that, and if you're going to do that, by the way, get soft solder and get a container of flux and use the crap out of the flux on the wire. So after you twist the wire all up, just drench it in flux, and then your solder will actually go in there and do its thing. If you don't know how to solder, if you're not very good at soldering, or if you don't have the crap to solder, then I'll just do a hard twist and pull it to one side, twist it in the middle a few times, and then take the twisty bits and twist them on the sides to create a mechanical fasten, and then drop a heat shrink on it and shrink it up good and tight. Um, that works too. I'm not a big fan of connectors unless I'm using something solid like Dean's plugs, and I'm only going to use them if I intend on plugging them and unplugging them quite a bit. So kind of depends on what you're trying to do. Uh, Big baller. Yeah, man. He said, "Oh, Frank, please." Frank said, "Frank, there he is. I got a 2026 Yukon XL on order that should be here soon. Looking forward to starting a new build with two solo Fix 15s. I love it, man. After my own flavor, brand spanking new vehicle's got like 6 miles on it, and he's gonna base the crap out of it, brother. Hey, high five. It's my ball. I'll play with it if I want to. I told you guys I had a brand new 2001 Chevy S10 extended cab, the only new vehicle I ever bought in my life. And before it had 10 miles on it, I had replaced the entire exhaust system, put two JL15W3s and a Memphis 1000D in the back, and um, replaced the factory speakers with some Alpines. The mids and highs. I think that's all it did because it had a CD player. I'm pretty sure it had a CD player. Yeah, I mean, literally, I hadn't even been home. I did this before I went home. I went from the dealership to the exhaust shop, from the exhaust shop to the car audio store, and got the bits and pieces I needed. I already had some stuff, and I took it out of my car, put it in my truck, and while I was at the car audio place, I'm out in their parking lot putting my shit in myself in my S10. Yeah, hadn't even been home. Didn't have 10 miles on it. Had the brand spanking new factory exhaust in the bed of the truck, and I run duals through two 10-inch glass packs all the way back, and then right in front of the back tires. I turned them out so they weren't out right in front of the back tires. That sounded really good, actually. I was hoping it would sound not bad, but it actually sounded good. You got to have your priorities. And I was working that night, by the way. I was working at Wendy's. I was managing a Wendy's, and I had to go in at work at 5 o'clock and close the store that night. So I was doing all that before work. Life. It's amazing. Yeah. Just ship it to Peter if he has sounds. Hell yeah, dude. Uh, let's see here. I got you. Connect speakers in the doors. Um, Ethan Brooks, getting my DC 3.5K tomorrow. Okay. I got it tuned down the new amp till I upgrade my alt from a 140 to a 300. Got SHCA OFC. I know that. I should know that. I can't think of it. Anyway, OFC alt gauge and an AGM for now. Yeah, if you're going to upgrade your alternator, I would upgrade my battery, or actually, I would add a truck under lithium 5K to that build, and you won't have to upgrade your alternator. So, for about the price of a good, actually less than a good alternator, you can solve the problem completely. If you upgraded your alternator with that single AGM, you would just barely be able to keep up because your battery won't accept that much of a charge. No matter how much amperage you throw at it, it can only take in 50 or 60 amps constantly, which means you would constantly be running off the alternator. I mean, purely off the alternator. And if you ever upgraded the amplifier, you'd be right on the edge with that alternator to keep up with. You might still see your lights dimming. But if you went, instead of getting the alternator and got the 5K V2 from Trunk Under Lithium, you would actually solve all the problems. Your headlights would be stable, your voltage would be stable. It would just work because it can take in the full power of that alternator instead of only part of it. So there's that. Then, of course, the next upgrade you would do after that would be the alternator. The next time you could upgrade something, with a nice big alternator, that 5K V2 could handle 8,000 or 9,000 watts without any issues. But if you just upgraded the alternator first, you would barely be able to handle what you're pulling right now. So it's like you're better off to do the lithium battery first and you add it. So you don't replace yours. you add it back by the amplifier, um, and then upgrade the alternator at a later date. But either way it goes, we'll get it done. Let's see here. Frank said, I've never hooked a system up to stock head unit, but guessing that's where the LOC comes into play. Yeah, your LOC is your line output converter. You can do a whole lot of different things there, and I suggest using 9-wire. So, so you need. Let me think about this. You're using a stock head unit, so you need the RCAs to into your amplifiers. Okay. So I'm trying to think of what kind of vehicle you have. Um, Let me see. Where would be the best place to put that? So I would take, if possible, I would pick up my signal as close to the amplifier as you can. That way, you're not having to run a long RCA run to the amplifier. So that's going to that the higher voltage on those speaker wires is going to reject noise. And so once you've reduced it to line level, which is what the LOC does, and put it in an RCA, now it's more susceptible to picking up noise. So I would try to run that high level speaker level signal as close as possible to where you can run the shortest possible RCA. Um, Now, from your amplifier, after you go into your RCAs and you go into the amplifier and you're sending it back out to your speakers, then you can get yourself a piece of 9-wire, and it's got 8 individual wires set. It's got 4 wire sets. Uh, Speaker four sets of 2 wires, white, gray, green, and purple usually. White being the driver's side front, gray being the driver's side or the passenger side front, green being the driver's rear, and purple being the passenger rear. Um, of course, you don't have to use them that way, but that's the way they're typically configured, like on out of a aftermarket head unit or whatever. So what you do is you got those sets of wires, plus you have a blue wire. So you take and hook up the blue wire to the remote on your amplifier, and then all the speaker wires to the outputs on your amplifier, and then run those all in that 9-wire up to where your current radio is now. And then you can disconnect the speaker wires from the back of the radio and tie them into that 9-wire. And that gives you the ability to use the existing wiring throughout the vehicle. Makes it very easy to transmit your remote and all your speaker wires up to the front. So at that point, that you only have one, 3/8 of an inch or so thick cable that runs from front to back, and then it ties right into the speakers up there, or wherever they are. You may some vehicles you have to pick them up at an amplifier, at a factory amplifier, and get the speakers there. But I think on yours, you probably got it in the back of the radio. Anyway, I'm probably getting way too deep into that subject. But if you have any questions about it, I'll try to answer them. Just ask me direct questions, and I need to know. Give me a little bit of information about the vehicle. I can't remember what it is. Uh, you know, you kind of have an idea of the stuff I need to know now. So let's see here. Sky High Greg, yeah. Sky High Car Audio, yeah, that's it. Sky High Car Audio. It's Gary. He called me Greg. Greg sounds like a real freaking prick. I don't want to be a Greg. There's probably a Greg in this. There's probably a Greg in here. Greg is always like, Greg. Look, it's Greg. He's the captain of the football team. His shit smells like posies. Um, Ethan, what's up, man? I see it gets too cold where I am for me to safely run lithium. Unfortunately, it can be sub 32 degrees for months at one time. and I want to be bumping all winter. Well, well, Nancy, yes. Um, truck under lithium is rated for negative 32 degrees at a maximum. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to have diminished performance at that temperature, but if you're experiencing, um, like sub 32 is not a big deal. If you're experiencing like negative 32 or close to negative 32 for months at a time, then I would ride on that train. But you got another 60 degrees under you that you can go under that 32, and they'll work up to about 75 to 80% efficiency, even when they're pretty cold. And as you start using them, they'll warm up really quickly and start performing at their full power. So it's not a terrible thing. Uh, and don't take my word for it. Send a message to Trunk Under Lithium and ask them about the rating. I think it's actually on. It's not on the website, but he will tell you they're rated at negative 32 degrees. Not all LiPo4 can do that. In fact, headway is something you just do not want to play around with. But the Trunk Thunder lithium batteries can handle that cold with diminished returns. So yes. Um, However, if you're still adamant at 3.5K amplifier, that's I figured 350 amps at full tilt maximum possible intake, but more likely it's going to be around 175 amps at the maximum full tilt boogie because you are going to be running a dynamic load. Um, and your battery is capable of continuously taking in about 30 to 50 amps constantly with that zero 0.3 to 0.5 C. So you're actually going to be pulling more power than your battery can replace. But if you run a 300 amp alternator, um, you'll have that much power. It's up to you, man. It's kind of a either or situation, but it'll work on that much power. It's it's not going to be terribly great, but it will work. The alternator AGM solution. Uh, I don't have. You can probably yeah. You could go to Big Jeff and use my discount code there to save some money on an alternator of your flavor. I'm not sure if DJ Dirty Bass has one. I haven't looked deeply into the site. I know he's got quite a lot of stuff there, but I have a discount code there too. Uh, let's see. 20 people in the building. Smash it. Smash the like button, baby. Let's see. Frank said, I've been watching videos where they pick the signal up from a stock Bose amp in the and back wheel well area. Some cars have that. Um, that's what I was saying. Some radios, some factory radios don't have the little amplifier built into the radio. They run a signal over to an off-board amplifier, which can be located under the, depending on the vehicle, it can be located in the passenger side kick area, or it can be located under the console, the center console, or it can be located like back under the rear seat, or it can be located on the back wall behind the rear seat, depending on the vehicle. It's about 4 or 5 different locations that you typically find them in. But wherever it's at, it will be the source that you'll have to pull your LOC off of, and then you're going to have to figure out the speaker. So you'll unless you have a wiring diagram, that tells you you're going to have to get up there and adjust. Once you find the speaker wire grouping, you'll adjust the volume, you'll adjust the settings so that you have only one speaker plan, and then you'll find it and get the signal from it, and then you can adjust them for the other speaker, and you find it, and you work your way through them until you find all of the speaker connections that you need. Technically, you only need, if you're pulling it for just a bass amp, you only need one set of connections, but it needs to be one of the front doors or a subwoofer signal to get the most out of it. If you're pulling for 2-channel amp and a sub amp, then you're going to want to pull 2 sets, a right and a left channel. Yeah. Let's see. Yukon XL. Oh, okay. Yeah, 2026. Shit, bro. I don't know. That's a bigger vehicle. It could be a whole lot of places. Where'd you say you think it was? Stock Bose amp in the back Willwell area. I think, do they have a subwoofer located back there? Head over to crutchfield.com and put your vehicle in there and do some digging around for how to instruction sheets on that vehicle for like adding a subwoofer, replacing the factory subwoofer, replacing speakers. Look into that. Because they have some really good write-ups and stuff on those and on the newer vehicles, and can save you tons of mistakes. You'll be able to figure that out pretty quickly. Crutchfield is your friend when it comes to digging up information on a very specific vehicle. Let's see. Red said Google Diam 25 or 26 GM interface. You got that right. What's up? What's up? A little late, but I caught you. What's up, Rob Richards? It's all good, brother. We're just chilling like a villain. Adrian said, yo, what I missed? Sorry, I'm late. Oh, man, we've just been talking about different people's stuff, kind of what we do all the time. You bring a question to the table and we'll try to answer it. Let's see here. Dub said, Google the Mazda RX-7 Boss setup if you want a good giggle. Or Bose setup. Mazda RX-7. Is that, you're talking about the old one, I guess? Red Pill said, why did I call you Greg? You're Gary. My favorite. I've been called Greg before. So my middle name is Shane. I've been called Sean. I had all black teachers in school, and they knew me for years. Everybody knew me. I was a troubled child. And every single one of I take that back. I didn't have all black teachers. I had like Miss Hamilton for first grade. She was white. Miss Turpin, my 5th grade science teacher, was white. Other than that, they were all black. Anyway, all my teachers could not pronounce. I went by Shane back then, Shane Thompson, right? And they, for whatever reason, none of these black ladies could pronounce my name, Shane Thompson. They always called me Sean Thomas. Every freaking time. And the principal's last name at the school was Wayne Thompson. And we were not related. But the fact is, their boss's last name was Thompson, right? And they could spell it and pronounce it because we had to learn it in the first part. But they never could say my name right. They always called me Sean Thomas. And so I learned to answer to that. They basically renamed me. Uh, I miss those days, man. I joke, but I miss those days. Um, I know I'm boring. I'm boring tonight. This is a boring night. You want to learn a little bit about a DSP? Anybody want to learn a little bit about DSP? We'll pull it up. We will go there. You say your name is Michael? No, Gary. My buddy's name is Michael. I was named after the Shane character in the movie Shane, and Gary was one of my dad's best friends, and he named me after his best friend and after the guy in the movie Shane. That's where I got my names at. Just a second here. Let's pull this up. Doodly 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 doo. We're going to do a little bit of learning. Y'all ready to go to school? Uh-oh. This looks like trouble. This looks like trouble. All right, let's see here. See what I'm talking about. Now, before I start, actually, I should just start because I'm going to explain all this crap. But this is an A-Wave DSP software. That's kind of obvious that it's A-Wave. I don't think they sell this DSP anymore. But this software is very similar to pretty much all the software out there. Let's listen to my idiot self ramble for a minute. What's up, people? Today, we're going to do a lesson on how to use your DSP software. And this is not a lesson on how to tune, although there will be some tidbits in there that will help this guy's to annoying.
Explain how that works. But this is essentially to help those people who look at this and go, holy crap, that's a lot of stuff. I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what to do, and I'm lost.
Now, I had to study it for about half an hour.
Get you unlost. So, first of all, let's talk about the basic components. This is a piece of software, by the way, from a Wave DSP, which is a decent DSP, but that's not important. So we're just going to use this as the basic because it is very similar across the board to.
You see, my brain has not degenerated much.
Very similar.
It's
they all
still
look
pretty
much
screwed
like
up.
this. When you understand how this one works, you'll be able to transfer that knowledge to any other piece of software you're using. So let's get started.
Okay.
Up here in the top left-hand corner, this is our source area, okay? So first of all, just covering this in chunks because it's not that bad once you break it down. This is
Hey, if you guys have questions, put them in chat and I'll answer them during the video.
blah, 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 blah. This DSP has multiple ways to get information into it. The main is what you're probably going to be using. This is the line ends, this is your coaxials plugging in, okay? You've also got an aux, an extra input that you can use. You got a Bluetooth input, so you can Bluetooth from your phone or your tablet or your computer or whatever straight into this device and send information, send music straight to this DSP without using any wires. And of course you got coax, you got multiple different sources. So that's what you're doing is you're selecting a source. And down here, this is also input. All this is input, right? So you're going to be using 2 channels of input, 4 channels, 6 channels, or some odd mix, like a 5 channel, for example. So if you're doing 2 channels in, meaning you've got a left and right RCA, and that's it, okay? You're going to send that to the DSP and let the DSP dictate all the other channels.
Now, W said, is there any way to tune my engine noise? I want a lower frequency hum from it. Yeah, you can put a capacitor in the line that's causing the noise. And that'll actually take the high end out of your engine noise and make it lower. Asshole. So yes, you can tune your engine noise. All you need is a cap. Um, W said, mid cam, low idle, RPM. Yeah, baby. That'll take care of it. That'll get it down there.
Then you'd select this one. And you'll notice up here on this inputs all the way across the top, this is where this is going to change. So if we select 4 channel, it's going to go front left, front right.
So basically, what I'm talking about here is, of course, the inputs. Uh, Basically, you have to, let me find where my thingamajigger is. Select, these are all outputs, but the inputs right beside them. So your input on the front, say you're at this input and you set it to front left. It can be any one. We'll set it to front left. And then the output of that would be a front left full, or we could change it to front left anything, front left tweeter, front left subwoofer, front left anything. And that's going to assign that. You could also assign these channel 1 and 2, you could actually link them, which is what this box here would be. So if you link them, then the signals will be the same and the adjustments will be the same. It'll sum those channels. And then these boxes here are to either solo or mute them. I can't remember which, but they're for testing. That's what those are for. So once you get figured out how many channels you're running in, typically it's going to be 2. So typically what you would have is a front left and a front right full channel running in, and then you're going to separate out and do different things with them down here. You're not going to run them in and filter them immediately. You're going to filter them later. And you will not sum them because you want that stereo image. You might have a front left, front right, and a sub, which you can make any one of these other 6 channels a sub. And then you just change this to subwoofer instead of front full, front right full. You change it to subwoofer, and then that's going to assign all 3 of those channels. So then that's your outputs. Now down here, once you select one of those channels, you can come in here and change the EQ on each individual channel. You can change the delay. This has the delay on the same screen as this gain screen, so you can do all your gains here. Here's your subwoofer control right here. This is your main volume. It acts just like a volume control or a gain knob. You can use it as a gain knob if you want to. But you set that. You set your sub level here. These are all your independent channels. This will adjust everything up and down the way it's set. This will give all of them different gradients. And then your delay over here is your milliseconds of delay. So it's got a kind of a unique little screen here with all the stuff. Each individual channel is going to give you the high pass, crossover, and the slope and the frequency right here. So everything for your crossovers and then your gains and then your delays are all on this front page, which is kind of unusual. This is your crossover type. And then down here is your crossover. This is showing you your settings of your crossover. So it shows you a graphical shape of what you're actually doing down here. Down here, you can use the sliders to set these, or you can click down here on this little box, but you can't see. I'll do it over here. You can click down here in this little box right here, and then you can type in a number and it'll automatically adjust that gain. And this right here, see if I can read. I got light in my eyes over there. Yeah, that one, the bottom one, or is it? Yeah, the bottom one is the Q factor. So what you do there is, yeah, I'm making sure I got that right. Hang on, is that correct? I can't see it. That's the dB. That's the frequency. Hang on a minute. Okay, so no, that's incorrect. The bottom down here at the bottom is the Q factor, and this one right here is the actual amount of gain for each frequency band, and that's the frequency. So you take this number, the smaller this number is right here, the wider the band is that you're going to affect whenever you make an adjustment. So at 4.5, it's certainly a pretty peaky band. You lower it down to like 0.5, and it's going to be a big long amount. So when you make one change here, it's going to change all these other ones along with it. So that's your Q factor. This is the amount you're changing, and that's the frequency you're changing. And then this right here bypasses the EQ completely, so you can do a before and after kind of thing with it. Um, this is pretty much the entire this DSP basically has one page that covers everything. Um, and that's the functions of the DSP. There's a lot more to setting it up. Let's see here. What are you guys talking about? W wanting to tune his noise. What's the DSP level out? Will the DSP level out each song? This one, it will not. This one will not. That's uh, that you can do. Most of the DSPs will give you, like this one does have different sources, so you may be able to set the. I don't know, but you may be able to set the gain per source, not the volume level for each song, so it won't auto adjust that. The B2 DSP behind me up there, right there. It's hard to do that when it's going the wrong way. Um, your brain just misfires completely. That will actually have a limiter on it. Now, it won't like maintain the level of all the songs at normal listening volume, but whenever you go full tilt boogie on it, it will keep the parts of the songs from peeking through into clipping if you have that limiter turned on. So it will reduce the level of the loudest part of the song so that everything stays below clipping when you're going full max volume. Basically, it takes away the dynamic of the song and just sort of flattens it out, like a compressor. It compresses it, if you will. It's almost the same thing as a compressor, but not quite. They do work differently. Uh, yeah, I know what you're saying, and no, there's not much out there that does that. I think there may be a few random head units that can do it, um, but I can't remember if there's a DSP that can do it or not. There might be. That would be very cool. I would very much want that. The BGs cannot be leveled. They are at Celine Dion levels of highness. Trade, traders crying for help. Oh man, I cannot, I can't do that. I can't sing like the BGs. I'm not even going to try. When I was in my teenage years, I could, I had a pretty high, I had a pretty high range. I could, I could sing, Still Heart and shit like that. But not anymore. Now man, I can't even do like the old anxiety, same old anxiety. You guys, um, uh, familiar with same, what was his name? Can't think of his name now, but Same Old Lang Syne is the name of the track. Dan Fogelberg. Brilliant song. Absolutely brilliant song. Met my old lover at a grocery store. The snow was falling Christmas Eve. That song. Uh, I can sing the whole song, but when it gets to the little high parts in it, I can't hit those no more. What are we doing here? How much is a subwoofer? Um, I'm going to assume that I'm going to assume he's being serious. So I'm going to answer this question because that's what I do. Uh, Man, a subwoofer can range anywhere from about $20 to about 5,000 or so, probably maybe a little more. We're going to need more information, a lot more information to get you an answer. And yes, There you go. I literally cannot answer that question without a ton more information. Dubby. Yeah, there you go. That's yeah. Yeah, I wasn't going into insanity where there's probably some out there, W, that are much higher than that. You got speaker systems out there that sell for several $1 million a piece. So how much is amplifier? Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. It's a lot. It's too much. Any more questions, Hellcat? I'm waiting for this. This I'm enjoying, guys. Let's keep going. Come on, give us another one. How much is radio? You can do that one. I'm not sure how to handle this. Uh, Seeing that a video on YouTube of the critical mass subwoofer and a prefab cooked me. Uh, what is the amplifier behind me called? Okay. Um, Pile of pride, yeah. The amplifier behind me is a Slapz 4-channel mini. It's 160 watts by 4, and it's bridgeable, so it can play a 3-channel system like left to right in a sub all by itself, and it actually did a pretty good job of that. And that little amplifier cost about $100 at Slapz Audio. If you use discount code CAE, it'll knock 10% off of that price, so you can get it pretty cheap. And that little amp will absolutely carry a whole car by itself. Not super loud, mind you, but you'd be surprised. I can get about 300, a little over 300 watts out of that. For we're bridging the 2 channels together, and that'll do a pretty good job on a little subwoofer. It's driving that 15 over there hard. That's loaded, yeah. Let's see here. Subs price. I'm just yeah. It's YouTube. What are you gonna do, man? It's the internet. It's fun stuff. We just do the thing. So Dove said, I think Hellcat is asking what the average price of a build would be, but again, that's loaded. Much average, depending on what kind of build you're doing. That number again. I mean, okay, I'll give you a number. I'll give you 2 numbers. We're going to rule out all of the ridiculousness because I'm pretty sure you're not prepared for that. So just a good solid build in a car with a subwoofer, some door speakers, good amplifiers, a DSP, probably a stereo because your stereo might be garbage. You're looking at a good setup. I'd say $5,000 to $6,000. For a budget setup, we could probably do the majority of that for easily for less than 2,000. So if that answers your question, and I can walk you through it. I've got build videos on my YouTube channel, on multiple build videos on basically how to price things out. But I'd be glad to walk you through it. If you watch my videos, there's an email address down at the bottom. Email me the questions, all of them, and we'll go back and forth and figure that out. I will answer your email. I check it all the time. In fact, I've been in touch with one lady who I've been working with for the last 3 days on how to build a port in her existing subwoofer box. We've been going back and forth trying to figure out how to make a new port for that box. And that's just been, I probably got 50 or 60 emails from her back and forth. So I do this all the time. Um, and that's going to be the best way to do it. Just make sure that you send me the information, not just I like okay, tell me the car, price range, and the kind of things that you want to improve, and then we can start building on that and actually get somewhere. Um, let's see here. Frame grounds versus direct grounds to alternator. I always go with the direct ground to the alternator or to the alternator bracket. But and then the next question is, does that ground go directly to the back or does it go to a frame? It depends on the vehicle and depends on how well maintained all your grounds are and whether they've been upgraded. So if you're, let's say you're connecting to the body, and older vehicles, well, even some of the newer vehicles, but you can use a body ground. You just got to run a ground from the alternator bracket to the body, and it has to be clean and big enough and tight and secure and good conductivity. Um, I say clean, I mean all the paint needs to be cleaned off. Bare metal has to be showing on the back side of the nut that you're going to tighten up or the bolt and the paint on the surface. All of that needs to be bare metal so you get a good tight clamp down on bare metal on everything. Then you can pick that up in the back from the same technique, um, and usually works pretty good. If you're, um, that's what I mean. I don't have a problem with using a giant chunk of metal as a conductor because it kind of already is a conductor. There's not really a reason to run a ground all the way back unless you have a vehicle that is performs badly specifically as a ground. Um, Now, if you're going to use the frame, you need to hit the frame from the front and then hit the frame in the back. And again, clean it, metal to metal, shiny metal on everything. But you can use the frame or the body. And if you're going to, like say, for instance, you're going to hit the frame in the front and then pick it up from the body in the back, you got to make sure that you've got a good ground run from that frame to the body of the same caliber so that you can conduct electricity. You've got to create a solid path that's at least big enough, and every part of it is at least big enough to handle the current you're going to pull from the front to the back, whatever that is. If you're just running your alternator charging wire back there and you're not trying to pull battery power back there also, you can use less wire. If your batteries are all located in the front of the vehicle and then your amplifiers are located in the back of the vehicle and you're pulling all your power from the front to the back, then you may consider running an extra ground just to make sure you're not having any issues because you're literally pulling everything all the time from the front. That's a big difference than pulling just the charging current. Because whenever you're running power wire or ground or whatever for the alternator to charge the battery back in the back, the wire only has to be big enough to handle the alternator's maximum output. Whereas if you're running batteries and alternator up front and then an amplifier in the back, say you got a 5,000 watt amplifier, you've got to have enough wire running at both sides, power and ground, to be able to carry all the current the amplifier needs. If you have the battery located in the rear to like a trunk donor lithium 5K on the amplifier, and then you've got like a 300 amp alternator, all you've got to have is a power wires and big enough and grounds big enough to handle 300 amps. But if your batteries are all in the front and you're pulling them, then you're going to need 500 amps worth of power wire. So that means you're going to be running 2 runs of everything instead of just 1 run. It's all about how much power you need to transmit. And where you're getting that power from is going to dictate how much the wire needs to be. But I use body grounds, frame grounds all the time. No issues. Just take care of them and they'll do you fine. Um, you know, if it's a fiberglass, thing with a crappy frame or the frame is toast or whatever, I mean, yeah, run wires. But for the most part, you can do both. Both will work. And you can do both at the same time, yes. Like Dub said. Honda said, do you know if you can use Duratex on MDF? Duratex, that is like, I'm trying to figure out what Duratex is. If it's water based, I would suggest not doing that. I know I should know what Duratex is, but I can't place it. Uh, let's see here. I got told by the SPL guys to Adrian. Yeah, you can run both, but I mean, you're never going to have too many grounds. Grounds are good always, so that's not an issue. If it looks like a place to put a good ground, connect two things together, throw one in there. If you got extra bits laying around, connect them together. Grounds are not going to hurt anything. Mm. All right. Hello, Cat said, what show do you recommend me buying? What's the first start that what do you like so we can be mine for my first subwoofer float for my first car? I'm going to have to I'm going to have to break out that tequila, I think. This is going to be one of those nights. I don't even drink anymore. Um, okay. Let me see if I can figure out what he's trying to say. What's the first? I'm guessing that Hellcat does not speak English naturally. Okay. First subwoofer float for my first car. Well, now you add the word float in there. That means you intend to move a ton of air, which means you want a big system. So, like, man, dude, that's a whole consultation. Send me an email and use the translator to try to give me something that can work with. I apologize. I cannot speak whatever language. Your translator is pretty bad or your translation is pretty bad. So use a translator so I can have better information and send me an email and we will talk about it. Okay? We'll get with it. And I can translate for you or try to. So just work with me. Yeah, it could be. Could be. I don't care. I'll entertain it. You know what? It's a challenge. Anytime you do something with your brain that you don't normally do, that keeps the brain cells active and keeps the things firing, the neurons firing in your head. If you're letting it stagnate, then it don't do anything. So you have to work with it. Uh, let's see here. What did he say? Port linked accuracy from WinISD versus Subbox. WinISD, but they're both going to be pretty close. And if they're not, you're probably entering information incorrectly somewhere in one of them. They should be virtually identical. WinISD, one of them, I think WinISD, I believe WinISD actually uses your power as a factor, the amps power as a factor. And whenever you add the amps power as a factor, it will change the perimeters that it gives you for the box. So for example, to round that statement up, the same JLW3 15, okay, in one box tuned to a specific frequency will work with, say, 100 to 500 to 300 watts. But if you get up in like 500 or 600 watts or 700 watts on it, that port may not work as well. It may get noisy. So it depends on how much power you're putting on things. And some of your Box designing software and your port calculators do not take power into consideration, and therefore they can't give you velocity or port velocity, which is what you need to determine whether it's going to be noisy or not. If whichever program asks you for how much power and actually gives you a velocity, a number at the end, and whether it's a good velocity or it's too high or it's not, it's not going to be very windy if it's too low, but if it's too high, it's going to make noise. If it gives you the port velocity and explains that to you, then that's the one you want to use. If it asks for your power, your amp's power, how much juice you're putting onto the system. Let's see here. Yeah, it would probably be WinISD. And W said, my Civic, for example, I was told a maximum of about 150 amps worth of grounds in the body. If I want to run more, then it will have to be with a ground cable running back. That's because the body grounds they have running from the engine to the body and from the body to the everything else, those grounds that they have, those ground straps, are only rated for that much power. So if you went through and doubled up on those straps and added a piece of alt gauge to them, you could run much more current than that through there. It's one really big piece of wire. You just gotta sew up all the weak spots and give it strength in those areas. So you look under there and find those little braided flat ground cables, and don't take them off. Just add a chunk of alt gauge running from the same 2 points. Leave a little slack so that everything can move and twist without putting any tension on it. And once you've accomplished that path, that chunk of metal can handle thousands and thousands of amps. It's the links that link everything together that's the weakness. Rob says, what's up, Rob? That was aggravating me. Your life on the port in the box, in the old box, was aggravating. That was aggravating. That was me aggravating your life on the port. Oh, okay. Got you. Very helpful. We're getting there. Good. It took me a second to realize the pain, the last name. Yeah, that. Aha. Gotcha. Yeah, I see your message over now. So I'm guessing that's you're using, is that your wife's thing, email or something? I don't know. Anyway, cool. Uh, Gotcha, Rob. Hostile hair, guys. Fun as always. Got to roll. Keep banging. All right, man. Peace out. Peace out, Bundy Rabbit. I had my buddy's last name is Hopper, and I made him up a thing with a rabbit with a machine gun in a parking lot a long time ago. And every time I see the hostile hair, it makes me think about that little rabbit with a machine gun. He's got a Thompson machine gun. He's got a mean look on his face. It's pretty cool. Let's see here. Thanks for the song. You're very welcome. Alcatraz, always grind down to bare metal. Yes. Get that conductivity. Oh boy. Okay. Yep. What subway do you recommend to use them for my car? Yeah, email, man. We've already discussed this. I can't speak the language that you're using. Paint after so you don't rust out. Yeah, you can do that. You can also use dielectric grease. If you go to the parts store, like an O'Reilly's or Napa or whatever's in your area, AutoZone, and usually on the counter up there somewhere close to the little spark plug gappers that they keep on the counter, the little round ones, somewhere in that general area, you'll find some little tubes that you won't know what they are. Those are the grease. It's a dielectric grease in a little tube. What that is grease that's non-conductive. Okay, that's why it's called dielectric grease. It's non-conductive and it's clean out of the package form. However, once it gets a bunch of metal and ground up bits and dirt and stuff in it, it will gain some conductivity. But the idea is to uh, cover your connection with that stuff so that water and salt and other things, corrosion promoters, don't get on the metal. Basically, seal it off from the air and the things that are in the air. And you don't get corrosion. But if you don't have that, you can always use a really thick axle grease. Just don't smear it like everywhere. Put it on the right there on the connection. Keep it to a minimum. Don't let it be all over the, connecting like big, huge glob connecting to the metal of the car, to the battery post, or anything like that. Just cover the connected area and the connection itself, and you're good. Or you can paint it, and painting it works most of the time, not all the time. Uh, Pride M5, yeah. Do all out first time, yeah. Yeah, he wants to float babies and don't even know what a car is. Uh, let's see. Let's see. Way too much Cheech and Chong. As many as you can fit, yeah. You're going to see Pride and Prefabs. Sharing is caring. You guys are fun. Kill switch. Wow, I actually picked up on your leet speak, man. Um, I used to have that so memorized in my head I could read leet speak at normal, just like a word. Um, let's see. Some of you guys won't know nothing about leet speak. Where did he say though? Okay, when ISD, yes. That being said, Sunbox is 34, and when ISD states 28. Yeah, it's probably a power factor that's changing it. There's a measurement in there somewhere that's either a variable that's different that you've entered differently, or there's another variable that is on one but not on the other, and you have input it in one but not obviously not the other. Uh, let's see, design and WinISD. Put design in the Sunbox Pro. Yeah, I just run. I run a basic. I run my basic design, and first I have it in my head. I kind of know about how big everything should be. I got a general idea, and then whenever I run it through a box program, it should give me a number that's relatively close to what I already know. And that's kind of how I check myself. And if it's a complicated build in any way, shape, or form, after I get done with my design, I send it to my buddy, and he does a quick model of it on his much, 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 much better software, and lets me know if it's stupid or if it looks like it's going to be okay. Sometimes we'll do that. Let's see here. But yeah, doing it in different softwares is a good idea. Might just meet in the middle and do a 30-inch port. Me personally, I always err on the side of a longer port, because lower is always better. The sub's going to play the highs pretty good naturally. So if I'm trying to dig low, I usually aim for that. I don't try to meet it in the middle like most people suggest, like 32 or 30 hertz. If I'm wanting to play 26 hertz, 28 hertz, I'll tune the damn port at 28 hertz or 26 hertz, because the higher bass always seems to get out anyway. It's always the lows that are tricky, so I'll tune low. Um, yeah, I got you. That's what I was talking about. The shell. Yeah, and but the shell, I don't think that's what they're telling you, but I don't think that's accurate at all. I mean, think about how much mass. It no matter what it's, even if it's aluminum. If you took that whole body of that car, the whole shell of that car, and crushed it down into a stick, it would be far, far, far thicker than any wire you're going to run anywhere. So that's why I said the shell can take amperage all day long. That shell could take thousands and thousands of amps. It's the connections that connect to the shell to see if they're using some kind of manual to say, well, this is how much you're allowed. The manual or the instruction or the rule is probably taking into consideration the ground straps that are running from different components to the body and assigning a amperage limit to that entire system. And they're calling it the body. Because the body itself is going to conduct way more power than what you're going to be using. That's a huge chunk of metal compared to a wire. Hopefully that made sense. Spot welded in tiny areas, not much ground potential. As long as you're connecting your grounds between the areas where it's spot welded, so you're not trying to jump from one spot welded panel to another. But I get it if it's really chintzy put together like that, and there's chunks of it that are missing a real good connection, then sure, run a big power wires or run both. Um, but even spot welds, if you take 6 or 8 spot welds, that's enough to carry hundreds of amps. So I don't know. A spot weld is like a quarter inch of metal minimum, you know, and that's. I think they yeah. I've been doing it forever, but I mean I have been lucky, I guess. I don't know. I get what you're saying though, because there could obviously be a situation where there was just not enough continuous metal to run, to do it. But I haven't run into that yet. Uh, Albatross, it's like a nut that clamps down from under when you screw from the top. From under, when you screw from the top. Rib nuts. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a rivet with threads in the middle. That's what it basically is. It's just a rivet. I mean, it's a hollow rivet that's threaded in the middle. So you rivet the hole, and then you can screw a bolt into it. But there's other variants of that too. The rib nuts is one. There's also the T nut. Is that what it's called? Where you have the nut on the backside and the little part that kind of pokes up in the hole from the backside, and the screw pulls it into it. I think it's called a T nut. And you've got nut certs, which you drill a hole and you screw the little device into the hole, and then you screw your bolt into the nutsert. Yeah, there's a few. I missed Leet Speak. It gets blocked most places. Yeah, we had for a long time, man. I ran. We did all the RPG games. World of Warcraft, probably the biggest one. Lord of the Rings Online when it came out. Guild Wars, the original Guild Wars, Guild Wars 2. Avion, whatever that game was called. Um, there was a bunch of them. And of course, Dungeons and Dragons whenever it was possible as a role playing board game. But Leet Speak was, hell, that was almost my primary language. I was a hardcore geek, a hardcore nerd, man. A big boy. I was 300 370 pounds. I was about 120 pounds heavier than I am right now. I was a big boy, had long hair. Yeah, I was something else. Kill switch for one last question. about WinISD. Is volume net or total? Volume net or total? If it's total, then they will give you a net. I can't remember on WinISD. I haven't used it a whole lot. But if there's a spot to put in volume and you put in a number, it should give you a net variant of that number, subtracting the port diameter, the port's total volume, and your speaker's volume. If you don't know your speaker's volume, just put 0.2 for pretty much all drivers. It's going to be 0.2 or 0.25, something like that. I usually just use 0.2 if I don't know any better. It's going to take that into consideration, how much room it takes up, and also how much volume your port takes up, and it takes into consideration the thickness of the wood. So it'll have a spot down there to ask you how thick the wood is, and a 3/4 inch is usually 0.69 or 0.68 or something like that. It should be 0.75, but it's not. It's a little less than that. So if the program asks you for thickness of wood, and ask you for your subwoofer's airspace that it takes up, and then it wants you to put in your volume, and then it gives you a smaller number, that would be the net. The smaller one is the net, and the one you put in will be the gross. It's almost, on box design software, it's almost always the gross that you're putting in, and then it's going to calculate the net. But it can only calculate the net if it asks for how thick your wood is, whether it's double baffled or not, all that stuff, and how much displacement your speakers have. So if it's asking you all those questions, then it's going to be gross that you put in. Let's see here. Fact slower is better. Damn right. Careful with those hand gestures. I've warned you before. What did I gesture? What did I do? Did I flip you off or something? I wasn't even paying attention. I would never do that, man. I just itch. Sometimes I get an itch right here on my forehead, and God, I can't stop scratching it. Alcatraz, WinISD gives me wrong port links every time on my commouter. Like negative numbers. Oh, if it was giving you, yeah. Hold on. You're doing, I know what's happening, but I can't remember right at the top of my head. If you're asking it for a port that is big, but also short, is that it? I can't remember. I got to take a little break. So give me a minute, guys.
Ash on the radio, mothers counting names. Children learn to hide when the siren screams. City lights flicker, windows made of stone. We trade our futures for a faded throne. Smoke paints the skyline, promise it betrayed. History repeats like a game we played. Man signed their name with a cold dark pen, then march back out smiling, let it begin. Can't see eye to eye, gonna fight till we die with the bombs from the sky now. Blood out, blood in, history shows it'll never end now. Kill yours, kill mine, and we just keep going till the end of time now. Till the earth is stained with blood and pain. No life for man. I saw my neighbor pack a bag and gun. Said the papers told him nowhere to run. Preachers on the corner preaching his lies. Politicians hide while the young men die. The soil cries rust, rivers taste like lead. We plant our graves and sleep in our beds. The kids still laugh, same as before, but it echoes off a broken door. We light the match, we learn to feed the flame. Grace we lost, somebody's to blame. Hold your breath, feel the fever crawl. Are we gonna run or answer the call? Can't see eye to eye, gonna fight till we die with the bombs from the sky now. Blood out, blood in, history shows it'll.
Do apologize, but sometimes you gotta nature calls and you gotta answer, or elsewise you get all wet. Uh, let's see here. I was trying to remember. There's a setting that you're asking. Um, I don't remember what it was though. There's a setting that you're asking. You've gotten in there that you haven't changed somewhere. That's and you're asking the thing to create an impossible port, essentially. Uh, that's the nuts and bolts of it. I can't remember what it is though. On the uh, on the other software, that setting isn't there, so you're not missing it, and so it just gives you a number. I can't remember, but if you Google it, you'll figure it out. Uh, let's see here. Let me find where I'm at. I'm looking. Negative numbers. Yeah. Um, Somebody in here will probably answer that for you if they haven't already done it. Kill Switch, thanks for the information. I've watched a few of your videos. Subscribe now. Thank you. I'll do the best I can. Sword fighting. No, we're not sword fighting. Red pill. Horn RSP airbase box. I like, hang on a second. I'm going to flip back over to the Demo Flitchy. Let me get it up here though first. I actually have, that's not what I was looking for. I actually have software open on my desktop. I have a tab open for all kinds of stuff, and this is the one that I use. Subbox Pro. I use this. This is the box I was working on for the person in the email. I had a generic shape and size. I know it doesn't work. The magnet's sticking out the back, but I needed this volume to make this port calculation right here. So I use this software a lot. I just needed to calculate a port. So I created an enclosure with approximately the right amount of volume to get a good port calculation for a JLW0. But in this one, this is really, really cool. I like this software. It's free and it works great. You can get a good generic idea. So if you know how wide your box is, we'll say it can be 30 inches wide. It can be 18 inches high. But let's say we need to have 3.70 cubes of airspace, not 370. Oh my God. Yeah, that wouldn't work. 3.7 cubes of airspace. Now you see how it's giving me the total internal volume and it's giving me the material thickness here. And we're going to change the subwoofer, but we'll calculate that. And that's given us our box. And now you notice how the port length changed because of the box, the much bigger box made for a much shorter port, very short port. It's almost just a hole. And sometimes you can actually get to where it's just a hole. So type ported box. Let's do two subwoofers that are 12. We'll do two 12s. with a cutout diameter of, we'll just call it 11. And we'll change that to 8. And then we'll change this to 0.2 because that's my generic size. And we don't need to have this radius. So that offset, that's just going to move the speaker around on the baffle. And this will also set the distance between speakers. And we're going to leave it named to JLW7. We'll hit the calculate button and we'll get a little different deal. So now we got 2 subs in here. And if we go to the port, let's make it a slot in the front panel, tuned at 32 hertz. Let's make it tuned at 30. I'm just showing you how this works basically. With a port area, actually, let's do this. Let's do this. Pipe front panel. And a pipe diameter of 6 inches and inner diameter, tuning frequency of 30. So now it's allowing for this wall thickness. It's showing you the port area, inches, and that 6 is showing you the length. So when we calculate, it's going to adjust all that stuff. Now we have a pipe that's too long. So in this case, it's kind of an impossibility, right? We ain't worried about the fact that the subwoofers are like interfering with the pipe. But what we would want to worry about, what we could worry about is making it 2 pipes and making the inner diameter of 4. See what that does. Real quick. We still have the problem with them being too long. That's about the same. If you notice the port area is 12.56. Okay, quantity 2 pipes. But if we let's sweep that down to, say, a 3-inch pipe. What's that going to do for us? Well, looky there. Now we have a box that works. And we have our 7.6 inches, 7.06. So if you notice that our pipe's diameter at 6 inches was, where's it at? Oh, there's 2 of them. Let's make it 1. Port length, port width, port area is 28. Yeah, that's big. But the point is, even though it shows this will work, like in this scenario, that port's too big for those 212s. It's not, it's too long. By making the port smaller and by using 2 of them, we can get enough area for these 2 subs, and the ports are shorter, tuned to the same frequency. And this will work as long as you're not putting, like having a really long stroke sub, or you're putting tons of power on them. If you do, you're going to start getting some honking out of these. But if you're keeping the power down, this will work fine. And this is actually not even a bad design. I mean, laid out, it's not bad. Because you could have you could support your pipes on the wall right here real easy with a little block or 2 and create a support. And then you could come back in here and do a front to back support for the center of the baffle. And you would have pretty much all of the strength you would need for a box like this. This is like 1,000 watt or maybe a 2,000 watt box. Not even that, probably about a 1,000 watt box. But the point is, you can do this. You can change your sub. All you have to do is hit calculate after every one, and it'll fix it. And then you can go down here, and if you go to, that's dimensions. If you go to plan, that's what I was looking for. It'll show you the whole build sheet. It'll show you the cutouts. It'll show you the measurements for all the cutouts. And it'll give you your entire cut list right here. So you need 30 by 16.1, 2 of those, 2 of these, and 2 of these. And Bob's your uncle. That's your whole 6-sided box right there. So that would build your whole box. You can pull these cuts right off of here. It gives you the measurements for them and everything. So it's a pretty good all-around problem solver, as long as you go into it knowing having an idea of what's going on. You have to have a general understanding of port velocities and how they can affect you, how to deal with those, and what you can get away with, and then you can use that to crunch numbers for you, which is just handy. Uh, let's see here. Whoa, man! I'm trying to find the rib nuts. Okay, I'm working my way back down here. Wrong port. Yep. Sword fighting. Yep. Well, we're still way up there. Okay. Oh, yeah. Corn nut. Corn nut. Let's talk to corn nut. Corn nut's talking about stuff. Low tunes are cool, but you sacrifice punchiness. Sure. Uh, that authority, that kick drum authority. Having a peak in the lower frequencies, though, F3 of your enclosure doesn't hurt the sound as much. Plus, you can always add more mid bass to counter it. Yeah, it's you can always add more low frequency to counter the lack of a port being on there too. But I would prefer to kick up the mid bass to counter the. I'd prefer to go that route, and it also depends on where you put the most emphasis at. What do you do? What are you listening to? What do you want out of that box? Tune for it, man. Don't tune at it. Tune for it. If you know you're going to be playing 26 to 36 hertz, which is what I typically play, tune right in the middle. 29, something like that, 28. Or tune, because you're going to be able to play the 36s a little better than the 20s, so maybe tune a little bit lower than that. Don't mind offering door panels. Oh, wait a minute. Rob said, Aurora 27 hertz is really awesome. Thank you. Maybe my new old box will play some of that. I'm hoping so. We're gonna drop the hammer on it. That's a good track. That track, I had that track going in my Tahoe earlier today when I went to Menards and got stuff. I had that. I played a lot of my songs. I played that one, and I cranked the snot out of that one, and it did the thing. It did the thing real well. I was impressed with it. Let's see. Cornet said, assuming you don't mind modifying the door panels. Red Pill does. Okay. Does the 2 Rockford 12s guy from your recent videos plan on deadening his whole car? We're going to be working on it. He's on a pretty extreme budget. He's very, very bass curious, but he's also on a very extreme budget. So, I mean, like really extreme budget. So I'm giving him all I can out of my stuff, and we're slowly piecing together the stuff he needs. But we're going to get it done one way or the other. Because we try to help teammates. I help everybody, but I mean, I do. There's a guy across there that works in the business over there, and he's wanting me to help him with his stereo system. Sure, man. I'll do whatever I can. I don't feel the need to not. I feel compelled to help, and no matter whether it's giving people stuff or giving them my time or spending my energy, whatever. I just feel compelled to help. I don't ever feel like that's the wrong thing to do. I don't know, man. I got problems, I guess. But yeah, he's going to get down. We're going to do the rest of the trunk next, and do some more deadening tricks on the trunk to get it locked down. And then we're going to probably deaden the doors, all 4 doors. That's going to be a project. And the last project will be the roof, if it ever gets done. But yeah, the doors are usually a pretty significant source of issues. Okay, this sub box gives me a longer port by almost 5 inches compared to when ISD. I got both pulled up. I'm gonna tell you, I've used Subbox to build everything. That's yeah, Subbox. I use that to build everything, and it's yet to lie to me. That's all I can tell you. Um, Adrian said, I would just call the sub company. Yeah, you can do that as long as they also, you have to tell them what size box you're going to be using, um, what's the thickness of the wall of the pipe that you're going to be using, or the diameter and the shape of the square port or slot port or octagon port or whatever it is you're using, how much power you're going to be putting on it, and then also they need to know about how much cabin pressure you have, because that's something. It's a thing. How big your cabin space is around the. There's so many factors, man. They need to know about 15 different answers to 15 different questions besides the ones you think you need to tell them to give you an accurate report. Knowing all of that stuff is where the experience comes in, because you can't, no program out there is going to be able to do all of that. And that's where the experienced box builder is going to make those calls and get you past those humps, figure out what's going to work best in that specific environment, that location, doing the thing that you want to do. So yeah. Cornut said, hey, you can't always trust manufacturers if you're wanting to maximize, but at the same time, you can't always trust the sub manufacturers TS perimeters to accurately. Looking at you, Scar. Yeah, scars. Their TS perimeters can be really messed up. Yeah, man. I just want to look at recoil like Cornut looks at Scar. You guys are a mess. Um, my favorite part about Scar is the enclosure builder that gives you the wrong information to build with. Sure, that would be it. A red pill, never dealt with Scar equipment. And it's not bad equipment. There's just the things around the equipment can be challenging. The TS perimeters are often not accurate. That said, sometimes they are. It just depends on where they're getting the information from. Um, their amplifiers tend to be a little bit inefficient, so they're like 50% efficiency instead of like 75 or 80%, where you would normally see a Class D amplifier. They're like 50%, so they really need a lot of power to support them. But the subwoofers are not bad; they're just badly documented. That's what I would say. Usually, again, all these things are variables. They're not always 100% accurate. And we looked it all up, and it's wildly inaccurate. I believe that. 35 hertz port length, half inch. Okay. I don't know. I missed that one. I missed the question. Recoil products are typically okay for the price. Exactly. I don't like them as a company. I haven't dealt with them as a company, so I can't say. The RCX line of speakers and the Red Series amps are great budget options, though. I wouldn't run them myself, but I get it. 100%. Now, Recoil is kind of like Scar. Their gear is not bad necessarily. It's the other stuff that's, I mean, this usually you have to pay for good company representation, for good customer service, for a valuable customer service where you can literally have conversations on the phone and work through problems on the phone. That company is typically going to charge you more for that product than somebody else for a similar product, but you're getting a warranty, a good loan warranty. You're getting good customer service. You're getting good back end support, which you don't get a lot of times with budget brands. Budget brands typically are budget brands because they do not offer that much of those things. Um, which is why I like Slapz, because Slapz can do a little bit of both. You're still getting a good budget brand with it. You're getting a good product, but you're also getting some pretty good customer service as well. And prompt and courteous and reliable. And, all of those things are there. So that's why I like dealing with them, because you're getting pretty good damn deal considering what you're paying for the equipment that you're getting. Um, Breakthrough Audio. What's up, man? Just tuning in on a similar mission to help, just with less knowledge at the moment. I was gone for a while. Hey, man. I had, we all have lives, and sometimes they take over and debate, but the base always calls you back. If you know, it's always calling you back. But I'm glad you're returning, and we'll do what we can to help you, and you can do what you can to help others in chat. That's awesome. We all work together here. Um, that said, glad I'm finally leaving SCAR and going SD. Get her done. Resonant frequency cab, free dB boost. Yeah, that's one of the things we were talking about. See, there's the resonant frequency of the cab, then there's also the quarter wave function and the reflective quarter wave function, and obstructions, and where the cab space channel gets smaller and larger can change. You can get different kinds of air movement and velocities in those areas, which can change everything. There's so many things. You have just not a clue how many variables there are and how something's going to work. So you have to have an eye for it and just work through that thought process, because you're going to be left with those variables are going to make or break the build, even if you follow the model perfectly. If you don't set it up right, if you don't figure out what's going to work in the vehicle to start with and kind of push it in that direction, you're going to get a result that may not work. A flared port, and will a flared port increase the efficiency of a fourth order box? A fourth order box? Assuming you're talking about a ported enclosure or a vented enclosure, not a fourth as in a sealed chamber with a ported chamber. If you're talking about just a regular ported box, yes, I mean it won't increase the efficiency per se, but it will allow you to run a smaller port because it works like the wing on an airplane. The air travels along the surface of the port, and having a flare allows it to speed up gradually and move in and out of that port more easily without any turbulence. And that can give you a smaller port with the same ability to move. You could run a higher velocity of air through it. And so by being able to do that, you can shrink the port this way, which also means you can shrink it in length as well. So you can use a smaller port as long as it's got nice flares on both ends. Something else, one of my buddies pointed out is making sure that your port, if you make sure your port is flared on the ends and isn't close to a wall. So a lot of times we design boxes with a port as part of the wall of the box, like it'll be either on the center wall or on the outside wall. And then you'll have a divider in there, and you use the wall as one side of the port and you use a divider. That's really common, right? But it's actually not ideal because of the way the air enters the port on the inside of the enclosure. It's one side of that port is a separate wall and the other is a continuous surface. So you get a differential the air velocity as it's entering the port, it goes in kind of crooked, kind of sideways, and that somehow that Venturi effect carries on to the outside of the port and will cause, instead of the, okay, now I'm reaching here, but I'm going to do my best. Instead of the air moving in the port like this, it winds up moving in the port like this, um, to a degree. I don't know how much of a degree. But the ideal scenario is to have the internal port disconnected from any other surface to eliminate this from happening. However, you do that is up to you. Will it work on the wall? Sure. It's just not as good. You're going to lose something out of the deal. You're going to lose things. Things are not going to be perfect. They're going to be less than perfect. And yeah, I went down a rabbit hole on that one. Scar's okay. The background of the Scar owner is really the concern. Okay. Wall storage, yeah, water jet to open the shutdown to see what's inside. Sounds like a interesting person. I give recoil hell because of that $1,500 subwoofer. Yeah, that's something else, man. Um, I have a $30 distro box and nice smoke covers. Oh yeah, I like all of Recoil's distribution blocks and fuse holders and stuff. They have excellent wiring stuff to be able to use for building a build. They've got they're an excellent source for all of that hardware that you need to do all of your wiring and keep it all clean and everything. Excellent. That said, though, everything that they sell, there's other brands that sell the exact same thing. So keep that in mind. You might find that Recoil has the cheapest price, though, for the same stuff. In fact, to use AI to market their woofer was wild. Oh, did they? Oh, boy. AI is not ready for that yet, man. It's just not ready. I mean, AI is definitely changing the world right now in seriously humongous and gigantic ways. It's over the next 5 years, it's going to be so intense. Within the next 10 years, we'll probably only have maybe 10 to 20% of the population still employed in jobs, especially outside of the home, like jobs. AI is here. It's not coming. It's here. And it's getting deep. And it's getting better. Still puts an extra arm sometimes out of somebody's forehead, but anatomy, tricky business. Supercharged cooling. Sound digital. Not a lot, man. There's people in chat though that can probably answer that question if you have one about a specific amplifier. GNA. I don't know, man. The SQ guys are the funny thing about SQ anymore is amplifiers, man. Even let's look at some of the really crappy amplifiers like Boss, for example. I will assure you, as crappy as their amplifiers are, I could build a whole Boss amplifier setup and do the build correctly with a DSP to control everything, and it would sound just as good as Marconi or whatever that, or any of those, many $1,000 amplifiers, those, gold plated freaking Grey Poupon amplifiers. You could do a build with the cheapest amps out there, do the build correctly in both cases, and you'd have be hard pressed to figure out which one was which without knowing. Amplifiers are very, very low in distortion, so low your ear's not hearing it anyway. And you don't have to worry about the controls on the amplifier because you're using the DSP to eliminate all of that anyway. You're just needed to do the amplify. Just amplify. It's all you need it to do. And as long as it's sending out an unclipped signal and it doesn't have any real noise in the floor, it's going to sound good. It's just going to sound good. It's amplifying the signal. You know, just because it says a name on the amp doesn't mean it's putting magic sauce on the damn thing. It's just amplifying a signal. That's what it does. It's like a magnet. It pulls metal to it. A magnet can say scar or it can say sundown. It's still going to pull the fork to the damn magnet because that's what magnets do. Amplifier is going to amplify. So when you go to getting into those to name brand territory anymore, it's becoming almost pointless. What you're paying for with a name brand is customer service. It's warranty and customer service and renown. That's what it is. You're not getting a better product necessarily. You're just getting good back end from a company. Let's see. Anyone meter subs in a sealed enclosure? Sure. What's up, John Smith? I know Porter will be louder, of course. But what can you expect? 212s at 2,500 watts and a smaller SUV like a GMC Terrain, so like a Cherokee-sized Chevy S10 Blazer kind of size. 212s, 2,500 watts, sealed. Man, I'd say you could easily get up into the 40s, maybe the mid 40s, if everything's just right. Maybe the low to mid 40s. That's what I would say. That'd be your top number. That's after you did all the other things you need to do to get your panels to be still and to be able to build pressure. Of course, it would depend on where the subwoofer is in a wall or whether it was a box or whether the box was behind, 2 rows of seating or whether it was all opened up. There's all kinds of different things, but I'd say that you could get into the low to mid 40s with that kind of power on 2 good 12s in the correct box and all the other stuff done, all the I's dotted and the T's crossed. Maybe my guess. But what you get out of a sealed box is it's not a flatter curve. It's not a flatter it's not a flatter response curve. It's a more predictable response curve. So whenever you port a box, what you're doing is you're giving up the sealed chamber. You're using a hole in the sealed chamber to resonate at a specific frequency. That frequency that it's resonating at is dependent on the length and width of the tube that you got that air moving in and out of. Whenever you're not resonating at that frequency, if you're resonating below it, you have no enclosure anymore. It's none. It's not there. You're playing free air, which means your sub is not going to be able to keep getting lower than the port. All right. But in a sealed enclosure, your sub will be able to continue to go lower and lower and lower. So although you're going to get roughly half the output out of the box with it being sealed, you can always make up for that with power. And you're going to have the full range, although it's going to drop and drop and drop when it gets down into the lows. You're still going to be able to play down into the lows without unloading the sub. With a ported enclosure, once you get below, like 5 or I don't know, whatever, 5 or 10 hertz below the port's tuning, your sub will no longer be in a box. It's just flopping around on a table. And it's also going to be canceling itself. So what that means is whenever you take away the baffle, now the negative wave coming off the back of the cone can mix with the positive wave coming off the front of the cone without changing speed, and therefore it cancels itself out, just like a noise canceling microphone works. You play a positive and a negative signal together and you get silence. Okay. Well, when your subwoofer's below the port tuning, and that sound, now that port is no longer a port, it's just a hole. It's a hole in the baffle that allows the back wave to get up there and mix with the front wave. And then they cancel, they're doing this. And that means they're not doing anything. So that's why your slope goes toom like that after it rolls off from the bottom of that port. There's give and take for everything. There's positives and negatives. There's pluses and minuses. You have to figure out what you want out of a setup and what you're willing to give up to get it. Because there's no 100%. You can't do anything that's going to work for everything. It doesn't work that way. You got to sacrifice something. Built a friend and a dual 12 sealed enclosure and a 5th gen RAM. Hit about 34 in the mid 40 hertz. Under seat. Yeah, see, that's a big deal. Under the seat, you're sacrificing quite a bit of sound pressure because your seat's in the way. I mean, it's in the way. So that's going to kill. And you're also, the sound pressure builds off of hard surfaces and it gets absorbed by soft surfaces. So you're literally putting a giant sponge on top of it that's going to suck up a whole lot of that sound pressure because it's just going to go into that seat cushion and just turn into heat and go away. So you're sacrificing, probably at least half of the output of the driver by having it play into that seat. And then, of course, you got the front seats that are going to absorb more. You got plastic panels and squishy headliner and all that stuff. All that stuff absorbs sound. It all turns all those sound waves into heat, just like a microwave. Microwave is basically a sound wave. It's the same basic concept. You shoot sound, into a piece of meat. You put a subwoofer on enough power and shoot it into a piece of meat. You will generate heat in that meat. You will heat the meat. You're not going to see it, but it does happen. And the softer, the squishier and softer a surface is, the better it is at converting that sound wave into heat. That's why a room full of clothes and blankets and pillows won't have any echo where a hard room does. The hard room, the hard surfaces are bouncing that sound back. And then whenever you're reproducing tons of bass and you want to make loud sound pressure and high SPL and high dBs, you want an echo room. You want everything to echo. You want lots of reverberation and echoes happening in there. So you'll see guys stick their head in the box and go boom, and listen to the echo. If you hear that echo, you know it's going to generate some volume. But on the same note, whenever you have all that echo, it sucks for sound quality because now everything is bouncing all over the place, and so your sound quality goes to shit. And there's trade-offs. Like I said, there's always a trade-off, giving one thing for something else. You have to find some middle ground or go hang out in the extremes, whichever one you want to do. You trade off one thing for another. Understanding how all of these things work together, getting these concepts, all these little concepts and working them into one picture is what a veteran box builder does. And it's why they charge you $100 or more an hour to build. It's not because it should cost that much. It's because that's how much they can get, right? That's how much they earn as payback for their experience, right? And their skills. That's how much they get paid. If you don't want to pay them, somebody else will. So if I got a guy wanting to pay me $100 an hour to build a box, and another guy after him wanting to pay me $100 an hour to build a box, and you want to step in and say, hey man, would you build it for $20 an hour? I'd be like, no. I'm giving you $80 an hour. Why would I give you $80 an hour? See what I'm saying? You just can't expect that to happen. They can command that price because they've earned the skills to do so. So that's why. And now for you to be able to do what they do, you've got to earn those skills as well. Under seat, STU, stew, use kickers and passes. Yeah, and it's all about everything, man. It's like, that's why I say whenever, what's the best subwoofer? There's no answer to that question. The best subwoofer for what? I mean, it just doesn't work that way. You know, everything is, all these variables had to be considered with all those questions. You know, I mean, even if you sat and told me everything, me not being able to look in there and notice the things that you haven't mentioned, you know, are going to make a difference. It's going to make a difference in the end result. That's why people do this for a living. That's why they charge for it. It's because it's a lot of stuff that you don't realize that goes into it. So much. I can give some general answers, you know, on a lot of things, a generic answer because I know basically what's probably there and blah blah blah. But if anything is off kilter in any kind of way, it could throw it all off. John Smith said, looking for a stereo integrity SQL 12s. Might be able to do 312s. Don't require 0.65 cubes feet minimum. My space is limited to a total of 3 cubes of 4 displacements. I would not do that. I would. Okay, so I don't think that's a good choice. But again, there's so many things that I need to ask you. But I think, hang on a minute, let me look. Yeah, 10s. I was thinking there's a 12. Yes. So if you're wanting to go with a really stupid small box and put 3 12s in it, let's see what else you guys said here. 6.5 minimum. My space is limited. If you're wanting 3 12s, then you're pretty much going to be using, or you should be using, the JL Audio 12 TW3 or the 12 TW5s. If you're wanting to put 3 12s in a tiny amount of airspace, these do that stupidly well. I mean, like, they're the best driver out there for tiny airspace in the 10 and 12 department. Nothing else even gets close. That said, that's going to cost you, you know, 15, 16, 1,700 bucks to buy the drivers. That's for the 3s. So that really doesn't make sense. Depending on, you want to do SQL, and people see, that's the thing. Everybody's like, oh man, if you're going to do SQ, you got to have this kind of subwoofer. I don't agree with that at all. I don't agree with that at all. At all. As long as the sub has the correct perimeters to perform in the way you want it to, it doesn't matter whether it's an SQ sub or an SPL sub. A company is saying that this sub is for SPL means that they made it move as much as they could forward and backwards and still stay in the gap and didn't worry about anything else. They just didn't care. It's like they're sacrificing in the right places. But as long as it doesn't matter what it says, it's a SQ or SPL. It doesn't matter. What matters is the box, the tuning, the install, and the perimeters of that subwoofer. Most subwoofers can do both pretty well. which is what you're wanting to do in SQL setup. And if you got 3 cubic feet of airspace to work with, before displacements, which means you got about 70% of that. So you could say 2 cubic feet of airspace. That is a single 12. That's what that is. Possibly a 15. Certain 15s, not all of them, but a single 12. You're going to probably get a better overall output, especially in the low frequency range, out of a single 12 in a 2-foot box than you will out of 2 12s and half of that. You'll still get more output in the high notes out of the 2 12s, but when you start playing lows, you're probably going to get more output out of the single 12. In that scenario, you're going to have a better overall tuning. You're going to have a better port, a better box. I think you'll have better luck in that department. But if I was going to run in that kind of airspace, if I was going to try to squeeze 3 12s into that tight of an airspace, I would definitely run them sealed. No doubt about it. Not even a thought to that. Because the sealed is going to require much less room. It's going to give you more net airspace without having to sacrifice airspace for that port. You'll be able to put more power on them to compensate for the fact that they can't move because they're in a tiny box. And you'll be able to dig into the lows with the DSP and bring them lows up real good. You'll get overall better sound doing that than you will trying to port that box. So if I'm going to go to a tiny airspace, sealed all the way. I hope I gave you some ideas there. Okay. Low tune box will excel in the lower frequencies and roll off anything up to the low pass filter setting. It will excel in the low frequencies and anything below the port tuning, far below the port tuning. I forget where it is, like 5 or 6 hertz or 8 hertz. I don't remember. Anything below that on the port tuning, it can't. You've got to put a subsonic filter on it to keep it subwoofer from trying to reproduce those frequencies because it's just going to be unloaded, totally free. It's not going to have any box. It won't be in a box at that point, and you basically got to kill it before it does that. So that's why I like having my port low. I sacrifice output for range. That's what I give up. In my Tahoe, my FS on my subs is 31 hertz. My Tahoe's quarter wave is going to be up like in the 44 hertz range. But if I tune my port to 31 hertz with the FS at 31 hertz, I would get a lot of output at 31 hertz, but it would die quickly in the other directions. I like to spread out all of my bonuses. So if I got a sub that's got a FS of 31 hertz and I tune my port down to like 27, 28, somewhere in that range, and then I've got a vehicle that likes to resonate up in the 40s and the high 30s, that means my overall curve is going to be pretty flat because I've got all my boosts scattered out. Guys that are building SPL specific vehicles will try to stack all those boosts into one spot to produce the maximum amount of boost in one specific frequency. It's going to be loud as shit in that one frequency, but it's going to sound like hot garbage doing anything else. That's what they call a burp box. And hardcore SPL people do not care about music whatsoever. They want to go bop, and that's it. They're done. Roll it up. Let's go home. I'm done. That's it. One bop. Done. That's not what I do. I play music. I do demos. I play music, and I have a range from about Really cranked up, like maximum volume, I can run from about 24 hertz up to wherever, 60 hertz on my subs. Easy, easy. And it's like a 2 or 3 dB difference from the bottom to the top. It's a very, very, very flat tune. And that's the way I want it. It still gets loud enough to suit me, but it's also musical. That's what I like. So I compromise sound pressure, intensity to gain wide band. Skilled labor. Skilled labor is a thing. Um, so yeah, your low pass filter allows the frequencies below a specific setting. Say you got your low pass filter set at 60 hertz with a 48 dB roll off, right? That means that at 60 hertz, it's going to cut everything above 60 hertz. Um, and then at 48 dB roll off per octave. So for every octave from C to C on a piano scale, if when you go from C to C, go down, it's going to lose 48 dB for every octave the frequency drops. Okay, that's a really steep roll off, but that's what that means. And so it's going to cut frequencies that are trying to play above that on that scale. Depending on how you have your roll off set, 24 or 12. 24 is pretty common. So 24 is kind of your go-to for, if you don't know, set everything at 24 dB roll off on a length width Riley curve. And that's a good starting point. That's going to give you a really reasonable frequency exchange crossover. Again, that was 24 dB roll off, length width Riley. But yes, hopefully I answered that. I felt like my brain just shut down for a second. Chef said skilled labor. Yeah. Without Gary's wire approval. Oh, what we got going on? Did I miss? What did I miss? Wiring approval. Hey man, look. I was critiquing. Okay. Now, guys, I know. I love my people's work. I love you guys' work, and it's amazing work. And Debbie does amazing work. You guys are awesome. But if you want me to critique something, I'm going to critique it as much as I can. I'm going to show you every little thing that I think could be improved. Not because it should be, but because you are asking. Okay? Or you're presenting it for judgment, right? So I'm going to critique it. That's what I'm doing. Honestly, with the wiring I've seen, is far, far, far above any install that you ever see from a generic car audio bay. That's extremely, extraordinarily awesome wiring. So, yes, I picked on his little box where he had the wires going in because they could have been slightly different and been pretty. And the whole thing was really pretty except for that one spot. It could have been prettier. And I pointed that out. This is what you do, you know. You got to think about it, dude. When you got car audio competitions, and especially like SQ competitions, every single one of these cars looks like they spent millions of dollars to get them to where they are. I mean, these things are all absolutely gorgeous, beautiful works of art, but only one of them can win. There's 99% of them are going to lose. That's how it works. Chef Life Express. No oxide grease to sign. Work with zinc in it, yeah. Cypress Hill 420. You guys are going on about something. I don't know. I lost track. Red pill, only the best wired used. Lamp cord. I have wired with lamp cord before. I mean, you know, if it'll carry 120 volts AC and 20 amps, which is what the average cord will carry, that's a solid piece of conductor, man. They do what you do. You do it until you get something better. Uh, that's the good stuff. Oh, tear amp cord. good, good for 20K RMS of fire. Oh man, you guys are a hoot. Car audio obsessed on enjoying your wisdom tonight. Cheers. I always find to relaxing hang out. Yes, I find English is challenge. English is hard. I love it. I love when you guys typo and stuff. It's funny. It always makes me laugh, dude. Every time. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They are kill. They are kill switch. We're glad to have you too, Car Audio Obsessed. They are pricey, but straight up, dude, there's not a better thin driver. Like if you want a small cubic feet, a small airspace driver, or a really thin driver, there's nothing out there that's even remotely close to the awesomeness of those TW3s and TW5s. They are absolutely ridiculously good sounding little subs in a very tiny box. They will play nasty low and sound amazing. I would not call them SQL woofers, though. They are more SQ woofers. Wave Tech, Thin Pro 12. Don't know. I have heard the name. I've heard the name. And I think I've heard that they compare pretty good to other stuff. But I just have a lot of experience with about a dozen different brands of thins, including the JL TW3 and TW5. I've heard so many in the same boxes in the same vehicles, and nothing even remotely gets close to that thin sub from JL. Nothing gets close. They all get destroyed, all of them. It's a huge difference. And anybody out there that's messed with these things will tell you there's just no competition. JL, in my opinion, I mean, they build decent stuff and everything, but nothing really extraordinarily better than anybody else does, and they charge more for it, all except for these subs. This is the one thing that they still can hang a hat on, and it's worthy of hanging a hat on. Frank said displacement will probably only be about 0.8 at that. Go sealed with 3 and have a QTC around 0.7. If you can manage all that, yes. QTC of 0.707 is ideal with a sealed enclosure. That's what I was saying. If you're gonna be strangling them, go sealed, man. You're gonna like that better than trying to strangle them into the port. People who haven't experienced just how good sealed is with the advantage of cabin gain, exactly, just don't realize how low sealed enclosures can go for real. No, they don't. Did you guys know that the sealed enclosure was not the first enclosure ever built? The first enclosures built were ported enclosures. The sealed enclosure did not come along for a while. And whenever it first came out, people started building sealed enclosures. Everyone was like, that'll never work. That's ridiculous. That can't work. So the sealed enclosure came after the ported enclosure. Go figure that one out. Just thought that was kind of funny. Is there a way to find your cabin's frequency before installing subs? You can find your quarter wave, and you can also use a small sealed enclosure to kind of get it to. There's a bunch of different techniques. You can do the subwoofer crawl in a vehicle, which is fun, but that's only but you're still limited on where you can put the damn thing, so it doesn't really help. Basically, what you do is you get a small sealed enclosure. I usually use a computer speaker or a home theater speaker with it, because you can just run an extension cord outside and set it in there, and then do a sweep with that sealed enclosure, setting somewhere close to where you're going to put the sub. and see what frequency it peaks on, and that'll tell you what your cabin's peak is. Now and then you can tune to that peak, and you can increase it even more, or you can do like me and tune away from it to use it as a double peak. So you get a cabin peak and then you get a port peak, and gives you more of a flat response. But yeah, you just put a seal box in there so you don't have a port screwing with it. A little seal box. If you got it, if it's a ported box, stuff a sock in the damn port. If it's a little ported, theater speaker or whatever, just stuck a sock up in that port and plug it up, set it in there, and then run a sweep from 20 hertz up to like 45 or 50 or something like that. You can find your, but you'll need a meter to do that. You could use if it's less than, I forget, like phones will give you a peak, like an app on a phone can give you a peak as long as the volume isn't very loud. That isn't necessarily the best thing to get, because your volume being very low is going to change where your peak is. You have to get in the ballpark of that power that you're going to be playing to really get that peak nailed down. And it's going to get close. It ain't going to be dead on. It's usually within 1 or 2, it could be plus or minus 1 hertz. So it's going to give you a little bit of a range. Main thing you want is a SPL meter, like the mini SPL meters. They're not too expensive anymore. You get the basic garage one, you can get the mini SPL. Any one of those, and you mount that sucker up there by your head. If you're not doing sound, if you're not doing racing, mount it somewhere, put it somewhere close to where your head is going to be, because that's where your listening environment is, like between the seats or at your head. Run the sweep and then look and see what the frequency was where it had the highest amount of SPL when the sweep ran. And that's going to get you in the ballpark of your cabin's peak. Let's see what Frank says here. Throw a box in the vehicle, keep your volume at about the same. Run the sine wave, frequency, reasonable volume. Watch for the highest dB reading. Yes, that's what I said. Said it faster, though. I said it slow. It's somewhere in there. Between 30 and 40 hertz is usually what I would say. Those and SQ competitions, all pretty damn good, to the point to where you'll swear up and down that the things have a center channel hidden somewhere in the dash. Yeah, you can really do some crazy shit if you know what you're doing. Maybe I had a beer or two. Happy to hang out. I'm glad you're here. Frank says shallows have come a long way since 20 years ago. The Hertz shallows are just as good as the JLs, but they're expensive. I'd have to hear them. I had 2 of the JLW310s in my Chevy pickup truck under the seat in the JL Stealth box. And my buddy who owns a car audio shop, he was checking it out, and what I'd done. And I had a song playing, and it had some nasty lows it dropped into. And he was looking back there, and I had that song playing, and it started dropping into those lows and playing those low notes. And I saw his face just get all confused. He was just ate up with it. It just blew his mind how low and pronounced, low and loud, those 2 10-inch subs in the tiny, tiny airspace were playing, and how smooth they were. And he was just slack-jawed. He stood there for like 5 minutes just absorbing that, trying to wrap his head around how they did that, because it doesn't make any sense. And yeah, it's something else, dude. They really designed the shit out of them speakers. Kicker shallows seem to move fast. Heaps of people rocking them. Like I said, I'd have to hear them. I'm not going to dump on anybody really because a random company could be making the most amazing thing ever, but I've got to put my ears on them before I can. You know, so far I haven't heard anything that competes yet. Um, Rob says 1 ohm versus 2 ohm versus 4 ohm. What's the difference between the 3 ohm music? Whoo, son, that can get complicated. There's a whole lot of variables involved, but I'll try to give you my best answer on that. So obviously, the ohm load is going to dictate how much power the amp puts out at a given consistent amount of a consistent attempt. So if you got the gain set here, volume set here, everything set here, and you just switch from a 1 ohm to a 2 ohm to a 4 ohm, you're going to get different levels of output from the speaker um, because of the resistance. Actually, it's more about the impedance. Resistance is just a factor that you can measure with the speaker not plugged into anything. Impedance is the really important number. Now, that leads us into the next part of this, the part that you're wanting to know. Does it make a difference? So when an amplifier, okay, I want to make sure I'm trying to make sure I say this the right way. I don't like to give out bad information. The damping factor of an amplifier, the control that amplifier has over that subwoofer to stop it whenever the note is finished is the damping factor. Okay, so whenever your note is done and your sub is doing its thing and then it just stops at the end and don't give you any extra wiggles, right? That's a high damping factor. It clamps it down and shuts it down. It plays the note and then stops. That's going to give you cleaner sound overall. That damping factor is part of the way it works is using the impedance of the driver to communicate the movement, right? So the higher the impedance, the more communication is happening. I don't understand the whole aspect here, but I do know that higher impedance nets more control. And also, whenever your sub is moving a lot, it produces more electricity back feeding down the speaker wires toward the amplifier, which is more impedance, right? And when your sub is moving a lot, it's giving more impedance, therefore it gets more breaks. All right. If the sub isn't moving very much, it's not creating much back wave, so it's not having much impedance, so it doesn't get the brakes applied near as hard, but it doesn't need them because it's only moving a little bit. So this system works out to like shocks on a car. The bigger the bump is, the more active the shock is in controlling things. I know that the impedance is higher. The end impedance is going to be higher on a high ohm coil than it will be on a lower ohm coil. What I don't know is whether or not this matters, whether it changes anything. So that's my best thing. If you talk to the Grape Pond crowd, they will absolutely tell you that you must have a high impedance to have good sound quality. No other way around it. You just have to have that. It has to be there. I disagree. But it doesn't matter to them because I know shit. Nobody but each individual person knows anything. If there's 20 of them in a room, every single one of them is right and everybody else is wrong, depending on who you talk to. But they'll all agree that more expensive is better, gold plating is better, and that high ohm load is better, even though none of that is relevant. But what do I know? I'm just a basehead. I noticed while watching, the information is deep You light it up. Yes, I do. I do. I need all the help I can get. Um, I have to think about it. Uh, Drew said, "Hey, boss, caught a live show. Glad to see you, good sir. Thank you and welcome, Mr. Drew Bradley." John, Big Bad John, don't, a big John man, stood 6'9". Why are car manufacturers seem to make aftermarket integrations more and more that went up more and more of a headache? There's always some gotcha, like ANC noise canceling systems. Um, well, here's my let's see, here's my pitch on that. When it comes to manufacturing a vehicle to sell, let me rephrase that. When it comes to manufacturing a product to sell, there's a set number of parts that have to go into it that cost a set number of amount of money. And also they cost the parts, they cost to ship, and they cost to assemble. Okay. So there's price. But what doesn't cost anything extra is tweaking software, changing the software. Well, it costs the one time to develop it, but after that, you can put that software and everything, and it doesn't cost you anything. So, I think they do that just to upcharge the sale without having to actually invest any more money into the product to sell. That's why it's always about money. The rule of my life is the thing that I've established over the years of being alive on this planet. If you don't understand why, it's because of money. It's always the answer. If you don't see why, it's money. That's why. Always. If a product doesn't cost you anything to use or take, then you are the product. And if you don't know why something, money. That's why. Just got to figure out how the money. The money is the reason, but how? That's the next thing. I've heard systems with nominal impedance of 1 ohm to 8 ohms on subs, and I can't tell the difference. No, that there shouldn't be. If there is a difference, it's not something that I've ever heard. Impedance is going to change because music is dynamic. Yeah, but it's going to be okay. So yes, it is definitely going to change. Your impedance is going to go up, but whatever you start out with is also going to multiply. So, for example, a 1 ohm sub may hit a 3.3 ohm rise at a certain frequency, right? Whereas in that same exact box, in that same exact everything, a sub that's rated at 2 ohms is going to have more rise at that same frequency. So it's all going to increase linearly together. So yes. And Drew said, "Here's one for you." Oh, goodness gracious, he's doing it to me. Remember the directional RCA? Yeah, that freaking snake oil bullshit. Yeah, sure. You have to ground on the input side. Motherfucker screwed up and had the wrong wire poked out for grounds. Torching line. Yeah, okay. Grounded RCA cables are a real thing. Okay, you have the ground loop situation. The ground loop can work for you or against you, and if you want to learn about that, that's a whole freaking like several hours of discussion. Just Google ground loop and how does it work, and have fun going down that rabbit hole. The point is, the ground loop can help isolate out noises, but it can also cause them. If you have a noisy RCA, you can run a ground from the outside of one of the RCAs to an actual metal ground and bypass the ground loop, shutting it off and get rid of that noise. And one of the things that grounded RCAs do is exactly that. They ground the RCA cable to the chassis. or to something that's going to get back to the source, so that the whole thing is on its own, is on the ground plane with the power and everything else. Normally, you have an isolated ground on the RCAs that doesn't touch the same ground that the power is on. Okay, that's why it's separate. But when you ground the RCAs, you get that effect of moving it onto the same plane as the power, and that oftentimes will get rid of that noise. It's a rigged up way of doing it, but it does work. Now, as far as directional RCAs, that is complete and utter bullshit. All right. And as soon as I start watching the car audio channel or any kind of audio channel where someone is saying positive things about $500 freaking RCA cables and I just immediately start, and I will block that channel. I don't want nothing to talk about with that person, because that person is buying into that snake oil, and I don't want nothing to do with it. Anybody who believes that and preaches that is a lost puppy. That's what I'm saying. Okay, they're lost. They don't know how to get home. And I'm not going to follow them around in the woods. So, yes, I do remember. And it's still around, brother. That shit ain't changed. That shit ain't changed at all. But people will call them out these days. Knowledge has gotten more widespread, so less and less flat earth people in the car audio community are still there. I mean, some will take that position just so they can argue about it, and I get that. That's fun. I mean, you pick, like, me and my buddy do it all the time. If we're talking about something, one of us will take the opposing view just so we can argue about it. And we did the flat earth. We were actually going to start a channel about that, and we had it set up, and I still have it set up, but never did do it. He's very busy with the company he runs, so and I'm pretty busy myself in different ways. But yeah, a lot of the flat earth people that you think are flat earth people, they really don't believe that shit. They just enjoy arguing. That's the facts. And then while they're doing that, they will influence other people to actually believe that shit, because their arguments are fairly decent, even though they're completely wrong. No matter how stupid something is, if you say it loud enough times, there are people out there that will believe it. Okay, that's a fact. It don't matter how ridiculous or insane it is. If you say it loud enough and often enough, there are people that will believe what you're saying. Man, it's a scary world. Sounds like something Monster Cable would have done. Oh yeah, they were a big player in that. Most modern amps have a damping factor of at least 100, and that's absolutely fine. Sure. Even more. Absolutely, Frank. I know it was Monster Cable who screwed that up on the 80K unit shipped out to resellers. It was bad. Oh, man. The home audio crowd are the worst, biggest suckers for snake oil ever, with the little feet that elevate the speaker cables. I like when they're trying to measure their speaker cables out to a specific length, so they're exactly the same length, and then they I mean literally down to the inch, because that matters somehow. Oh God. Rawcat has listened to a lot of mids. He seems to love the Fateful Pros, which are very affordable. I can see it. I don't know if I got them in here. Hang on a second. Give me a second. I'm going to get some. let's talk about this. So, when it comes to mids, that is a wonderful area to talk because they don't get nearly enough love, and your mids carry about 70% of your music information. Um, what I find interesting is the mids that are tiny and can do so much with very little cone area. And these guys, relatively inexpensive, right here, the SA275FR V2s. They may not be the V2s anymore. I think I paid like $30 for the set. So they're not expensive. But I've tested these many different ways, multiple times, on a full range signal. I didn't even give them a crossover. They were playing everything 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz, and they do tweeter pretty well. They do a pretty damn good tweeter, uh, and they're a little 2 3/4. And I've had them in my stash for a long time. One of these days I might put them in a vehicle, but I've put them in many boxes, many different little enclosures and different tests. Put them in pipes. I used them in tubes to do like a T line and played 20 hertz through them. They're a remarkable little driver, and they handle power pretty good, even way, way, way outside of their band. And they play highs. You could survive with these and no tweeters. And that cone has got a lot of movement. It's got a lot of throw in there. It actually does things. These are really impressive little drivers. One of these days I'm gonna put them in a build. They'd work well in, like, a lot of dashes have those two screw speakers in the dash things. Still got my sundown audio sticker in here. But yeah, I've been wanting to throw these in the build. I just haven't yet. That one's still got the little screws. Oh, you can't see them. Still got the screws and everything. This is a complete setup, dude. They've done some playing, but remarkable little drivers. Yeah, I got a collection of all sorts of crazy stuff in here. I could pull speakers out for days, speakers and other electronics. Those things are impressive. Uh, let's see here. Drew said, auto corrected me. I think it was Monster Cable who did that. Okay, yeah. Shielding. Yeah. I've been out with the game for a while. Been out of the game for a decade or longer, but had no clue directional RCA cables is still a scam. Oh yeah, yeah. They're still out there. They're still idiots. As long as there's still idiots that have money, there'll be directional RCA cables. I'm sure it made lots of money. Oh man, people are making a killing. Home audio snobs also refuse to embrace DSP. They have no idea how good their music could sound tuning to something like the Harman House Curve. Yeah, dude, it is what it is, man. Um, it is what it is. Uh, I'm currently working on a new type of transducer speaker, so that'd be fun. So my prototypes, 3 of them are 4, 6, and 6 for proof of concept. So far, they sound like trash, but I'm working on it. There's a one of the there's some really good videos out there on the transducers being used and on panels. I think the best sound that one fella got, if you're familiar with those acoustic panels they put in the ceiling of offices that fit down in the grid with the white with the little kind of dark dents all in them, those things, that was the best material he found. And he was using the 1/3 and 1/3 rule. So you are 2/3 and 1/3. So you go over 2/3 of the way toward the corner from the corner, and then you go down a third of the way. And so your speaker is 2/3 of the way from that corner and then 2/3 away from the bottom corner. And that's where you want your transducer at. The reasoning behind that was the it had the least amount of wave buildup anywhere. So when you put the transducer in the center of the panel, it causes the same wave to build up on both sides because both sides are moving at the same speed, the same frequency. Same thing with the top and the bottom; they're both. But then when you get away from that frequency, nothing wants to vibrate at that frequency, so you have a null. By doing it in that 2/3 over and then 1/3 down in that corner, that weird corner spot, you don't have any all the whole panel around that transducer is different lengths, so it gives a more uniform vibration range of frequencies because it's got so much more of a range of potential lengths of panel to vibrate. So that's what he did. I remember, and that's the reasoning behind it. And hopefully I explained it correctly, but at least I did accurately explain it. I just hope it was understandable. That's what he had the best luck with, and also the tended to be the lighter materials tended to respond better. Styrofoam, like blow styrofoam, tended to accentuate the highs really well, play the tweeter areas very well, um, and then the heavier panels played the lows. Those ceiling tiles, those acoustic tiles, had the best overall range across 20 to 20. Rockhat does a lot of good no nonsense tests. Absolutely. Really does. I have too. I've learned plenty from him. Sure. Joe Player, what's up? Random question, but every sub box I've had or built, MDF was always the best versus birch or plywood or anything. Is there any reason for that? That's an assumption, and then you're making a statement and then asking me to approve or your statement, but or to give a reason for your statement. You're stating that MDF is always superior, and you want to know why the reason is for that. Well, first off, I don't agree that MDF is always superior, but there's depending on what factors you're considering. If you're just considering sonic reproduction, then MDF probably is superior, uh, but it's also a little less expensive than some of the better plywood out there, but it's more expensive than the cheaper plywood. It's also heavier and it doesn't take moisture and it's got nasty sawdust and all these other things, but it shapes easier. There's goods and bads. But sonically, yes, and the reason is that it is innately dead. It doesn't vibrate. If you take a plywood panel and screw it down to a workbench, right, where it's flopping out there, and then you go up there and bang on it with your fist, it's going to go right. Same thing with the piece of MDF. It's just going to go. Well, it won't even do that. It's just going to be a tap, 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 a little click, click, click. It doesn't want to vibrate. That means it's going to be more dead and not resonant, which is what you want in an enclosure. The ideal enclosure would be like solid concrete, or maybe solid lead, something with lots and lots and lots of mass and that doesn't have any resonant frequency at all. Would be the ideal enclosure. But obviously, those two options are not ideal for enclosures. So yeah, it's going to be better sonically because it doesn't make a ring. It doesn't ring, right? It doesn't have a frequency that it vibrates, or it's so low that we don't. Doesn't matter. So yeah, in that regard, yes. But then there's all the other factors. There's give ups. There's trade offs. There's always trade offs. Um, is Dyne Audio still a company? I think they used to offer a 3-inch soft dome mid tweeter that were very bright and reliable. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough. I think they're still a company though. I had a pair of Earthquake. The guy called them Screamers. They were 3-inch, 2.5 or 3-inch tweeters, and they weren't horn tweeters. These were big old silk domes. And I remember we put them in pods, and you could set them in the cup holders. In my Ford Ranger, they would fit in the cup holder. But we ended up putting those in the dash. And man, that was my favorite sounding truck ever. That sucker sounded so good. It had the best sound stage. It was just fucking amazing. Um, Drew, Bradley, yeah, Dyne Audio, still around, very expensive. Yeah, yeah. I know they're one of those boutique, one of those Grey Poupon brands. Mustard with some seasoning added, and now it's a lot more expensive. Um, Soundstage Clarity, backed up with IDW horns. Sweet. I see Joe for high quality plywood today because it's lighter, stronger, holds screws better, resist moisture. Yeah, all that stuff. That's why I use plywood myself in my own builds. Um, it's not as sonically good as MDF, but it's literally better in pretty much every other way. Now, just breaks the box and sub, you'll probably get the same results. Pretty much. Well, I learned there's a difference of plywoods, like marine grade being odd number of plies. That makes so little difference that it's not even something I would consider. What's more important about the marine grade is how it's got multiple, many thin layers, which gives the whole sheet more rigidity and kills cavities. It's like when you have 3 or 4 or 5 thick layers and you have some kind of cavity show up, it creates a big old void in there. And that's a weak spot, right? But when you have really thin layers, you pretty much have 0 cavities because there's, even if one had a hole in it, it still wouldn't be a space that would be anything to worry about. So it's much more dense. It's stronger in all directions, and all of those things are, again, it's closer to being MDF, right? Without being MDF. And marine grade means it's not going to soak up the water as easy. And HDF, yeah. Let's see here. Well, there's a difference between plywoods. Typically helped my efforts back then. Yeah. There's a type of MDF now called, Valchromat that is even more inert. Hold on. Acoustically, and has a bit more strength. Some high dollar or studio monitor companies use it. Interesting. It sounds expensive. And also heavy. What's up, Stas? Good morning from Belgium. Good morning to you. Welcome to the show. Frank said using pretty plywood and that stained look that Bobby Gately popularized looks sick as well. Oh, yeah. It's hard to make MDF look good without just straight painting it or carpeting it. It is what it is. This is what we work with today. But guys, holy but Jesus, we've been on here for 3 hours. Yep, it's time for me to eat a snack, and I'm going to be working on going to bed. I love hanging out with you guys, but We are done. And do I even have my duck? Where the hell did my duck go? I don't have the duck. Oh my God. Where's my duck? Hold on a second. Oh, let's. There he is. Get the duck out of here. Hey. Yeah, baby. I love you guys.
Up and down the street, slamming that to the ground. Big subwoofers are getting
Y'all are
loud.
very,
You can
very
feel the
welcome.
booming sound. Getting ready to go. Got it shined up for the show. Hours
All right,
charging.
Stash, you showed up at the very
let
end,
the
my
woofers
friend.
blow.
And I'll wait till I can watch it from the beginning and see all
Another
the
one bites the dust. Another one bites the dust. And another one goes, and another one goes, and another one bites the dust. We got more at home. Another one bites the dust. Eyes are glowing and the aim is smoking. Subs are cherry red. Let me keep jamming, gotta keep the bass slamming. Gonna go hard till they're dead. Full power, gotta let it go. 20 hertz in the floating hair. Sparks are flying, voice cords are frying, and the smoke is in the air. Another one bites the dust. Another one bites the dust. And another one goes, and another one goes, and another one bites the dust. Hey, we got more at home. Another one bites the dust. Got it. Got it.
Yeah, have a good night too, man. Y'all don't forget to show your love to your neighbors. Be nice to each other and treat people well.